The final battle took place in the Nexus system, where the Void Devourers had built their greatest stronghold. The construct was the size of a small moon, a geometric nightmare of dark metal and pulsing energy conduits. For 3,000 years, it had served as the central intelligence that coordinated the mechanical collective's expansion across the galaxy. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the UDS Guardian, watching the combined human-alien fleet prepare for the assault. 6 months of careful planning had led to this moment. Around her, the largest space fleet in galactic history hung in perfect formation. "Admiral, all fleet elements report ready," Captain Rodriguez announced. Human task forces, Kithari support vessels, Mollusk heavy cruisers, and Crystal Singer long-range fighters. Total count, 4,700 vessels. The Alliance had grown far beyond its original members. As word of humanity's victories spread, dozens of species had emerged from hiding to join the fight. Each brought unique technologies and capabilities, but all looked to the humans for military leadership. High Counselor Vexithala, now bearing the title of Alliance Coordinator, appeared on the main communications screen from her ship. The months of war had changed her. The peaceful diplomat had become a skilled organizer of refugees and resources. "Admiral Chen, our intelligence networks confirm the Nexus contains the Void Devourer's core intelligence. If we destroy it, their remaining fleets will become uncoordinated and vulnerable." "Understood, Counselor. All ships begin the assault." The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for centuries. The Void Devourers fought with desperate efficiency, throwing every ship and weapon they had at the Allied fleet. Their mechanical precision was perfect, but it was also predictable. Humans had spent months analyzing enemy tactics, finding patterns in their seemingly random adaptations. Dr. Kim's engineering teams had developed weapons specifically designed to exploit those patterns. When Void Devourers adapted to kinetic weapons, humans switched to energy beams. When they adapted to energy beams, humans used plasma torpedoes. When they adapted to everything, humans used the one weapon they couldn't adapt to: unpredictability. Captain Maria Santos, commanding a squadron of converted mining ships, led her vessels in an attack pattern that defied all military logic. Her ships scattered in random directions, fired at empty space, then suddenly converged on enemy formations from impossible angles. The Void Devourer's tactical computers couldn't process the apparently chaotic behavior. Meanwhile, Kithari crystal ships used their natural resonance properties to disrupt enemy communications. Mollusk vessels, with their incredible armor, served as mobile shields for more fragile human fighters. Crystal Singer ships provided long-range support with weapons that turned sound waves into devastating energy. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The youngest member of the Alliance, Zek Kala, was a Kithari child who had been studying human military history in the refugee camps. While adult strategists planned complex battle formations, she had been playing with simple human war games. When Admiral Chen visited the refugee ships before the battle, the child approached her with a hand-drawn diagram. "Admiral Guardian," she said in careful English, "the metal ships think like machines, but machines break when you remove their power source." The diagram showed the Nexus construct with all its defensive systems active. But Zek Kala had identified something the military analyst had missed: a single point where all the power conduits converged. "If you could get a very small ship to this point," she explained, "and make it explode with nuclear fire, the whole construct would lose power." Admiral Chen studied the child's drawing with growing amazement. It was brilliant in its simplicity. Adult minds had been focused on overwhelming the Nexus with superior firepower. A child had found a way to turn off its lights. The suicide mission was volunteered for by Captain James Park, commanding the tiny scout ship Prometheus II. Named after humanity's first failed interstellar mission, the ship was fast, maneuverable, and equipped with the most powerful nuclear warhead human technology could produce. "Admiral, this is Prometheus II beginning final approach," Captain Park reported as his ship dove toward the Nexus through a storm of enemy fire. "Tell my family I kept the promise." The Prometheus II penetrated the construct's defenses through a combination of luck, skill, and the kind of reckless courage that had carried humans to the stars. When the ship reached the power nexus, Captain Park activated the warhead. The explosion lit up the entire star system. The nexus, deprived of power, went dark for the first time in 3 millennia. Its weapons fell silent. Its shields collapsed. Its manufacturing facilities shut down, and across the galaxy, every Void Devourer ship suddenly stopped moving. Without the central intelligence to coordinate their actions, the mechanical collective simply stopped. Ships that had been consuming worlds for thousands of years hung motionless in space, their crews waiting for orders that would never come. In the months that followed, Allied fleets systematically hunted down the disabled Void Devourer vessels. Some ships had backup intelligences and continued fighting, but they were easily defeated without coordination. Others were captured and studied, their technology reverse-engineered to help rebuild the civilizations they had destroyed. A year after the Battle of the Nexus, Admiral Chen stood in the garden dome of Vexcar Prime, watching Cathari children play among flowering crystal trees. The planet had been one of the first liberated from Void Devourer occupation, and the restoration effort had become a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. High Counselor Vexathala joined her on the observation balcony, carrying 2 cups of the Cathari ceremonial tea that had become Admiral Chen's favorite drink. The last Void Devourer stronghold was eliminated yesterday, Vexathala reported. Admiral Rodriguez's task force found their hidden shipyard in the Omega sector. It's over, Sarah. After 3,000 years, it's finally over. Admiral Chen accepted the tea gratefully. The past year had aged her beyond her calendar years, but she felt a deep satisfaction in what they had accomplished. What will your people do now? She asked. Rebuild, explore, create beautiful things instead of weapons. Vexathala paused, watching human and Cathari children playing together in the garden below. And we will remember. Our artists are already composing songs about the guardians who came from Sol when all hope seemed lost. We're not guardians, Vexathala. We're just people who did what needed to be done. Perhaps that is what guardians truly are. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Admiral Chen's communication device displayed a star chart showing the far edge of known space. Dr. Harper's voice carried a familiar mix of excitement and concern. Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the Perseus arm. 3 different species requesting assistance against something they call the Hunger. The descriptions match Void Devourer tactics, but the ships are organic instead of mechanical. Admiral Chen studied the star chart, then looked down at the peaceful scene in the garden. Human and alien children learning each other's games, teenagers from a dozen species working together on art projects, adults sharing stories and technologies. This was what they had fought for, not victory, but the chance for different species to live and grow together. The chance for children to play without fear of machines that consumed worlds. Admiral, Vexathala asked, what are your orders? Admiral Chen set down her teacup and activated her fleet communication system. Throughout human space, ships that had been standing down for maintenance began powering up their engines. Crews reported for duty. Weapon systems came online. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Chen. We have new distress calls from the Perseus arm. Unknown hostiles are threatening civilian populations. Prepare for immediate deployment. The response was immediate and unanimous. From Earth to the outer colonies, from converted cargo ships to purpose-built dreadnoughts, human voices responded with the same 4 words. Ready to serve, Admiral. Vexathala watched the preparations with a mixture of admiration and sadness. You could stay, you know. Your people have earned peace. Admiral Chen looked out at the stars where new distress calls waited, and unknown enemies threatened innocent lives. She thought about Captain Santos, who had died protecting people she'd never met. About Captain Park, who had flown into certain death to save civilizations. About all the humans who had answered the call when strangers needed help. Peace isn't something you earn, she said finally. It's something you protect. And apparently the galaxy still needs protecting. The human fleet that departed for the Perseus arm was larger and more advanced than the force that had first responded to the Cathari distress call, but its mission remained the same. Stand between the innocent and the dark, no matter the cost. As the ships jumped to hyperspace, Admiral Chen received one final message from Earth. It was from a group of children at the Solar Academy who had drawn pictures of spaceships and aliens and humans working together. The message was simple. Thank you for being our guardians. Admiral Chen smiled and filed the message in her personal archive, right next to the original distress call from the Cathari. Then she turned her attention to the tactical displays showing their destination. Somewhere in the Perseus Arm, peep 3 months after first contact, the war had spread across 12 star systems. News of humanity's intervention traveled through refugee networks, resistance cells, and even Void Devourer communication channels. The galaxy was learning that something new had entered the ancient conflict. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of Firebase Alpha, a massive asteroid that human engineers had converted into a fortress factory. Around her, holographic displays showed the current state of the war. Red dots marked Void Devourer fleets. Blue dots showed human forces. Green indicated Cathari refugee camps and surviving civilian populations. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim," reported Captain Rodriguez, now serving as Chen's chief of staff. 3 more species have requested assistance. The Mollusk Confederacy survivors, the Crystal Singers from the Andara system, and something called the Hive Collective. Admiral Chen studied the tactical map. The scale of the conflict was staggering. The Void Devourers had been consuming civilizations for millennia, growing stronger with each conquest. But for the first time in recorded history, they were facing organized resistance. "What's our current fleet strength?" 732 operational vessels, Admiral. That includes the new ships we've built here and reinforcements from Earth. The reinforcements were the result of humanity's greatest mobilization effort since the climate wars. When news of the galactic conflict reached Earth, every human colony, corporation, and government had contributed resources. Mars had converted its entire industrial capacity to warship production. The Asteroid Belt Mining Consortium had built mobile factories that turned raw materials into weapons. Dr. Kim approached with her latest engineering report. "Admiral, we've completed analysis of captured Void Devourer technology. The good news is that their shields are specifically designed to stop energy weapons. The bad news is that they're already adapting to our kinetic weapons." "How quickly?" "Each engagement teaches them more about our tactics. The Void Devourers we fought last week had reinforced armor against railgun impacts. They're learning." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. The enemy's ability to adapt was their greatest strength. But humans had one advantage: they adapted faster. "Doctor, have you finished the new weapon prototypes?" "Yes, Admiral. Project Thunderbolt is ready for field testing." Project Thunderbolt was humanity's answer to Void Devourer adaptation. If the enemy could learn to defend against railguns and missiles, humans would give them something completely different to worry about. Across the system, the war had transformed both human and Cathari society. The elegant aliens watched in fascination and horror as humans turned asteroids into weapons platforms, converted luxury ships into assault vessels, and treated warfare like an engineering problem to be solved. High Counselor Vexathala had established her government in exile aboard the human command ship. She spent her days learning about human culture and trying to understand her strange new allies. "Admiral Chen," she said during their daily briefing, "my people are grateful for your protection, but we struggle to understand your methods. Yesterday, your engineers turned a children's playground into a missile launcher. The playground was on an asteroid that needed defensive weapons," Admiral Chen replied. "Don't worry. We marked it clearly so the children won't play there during combat operations." Vexathala's translator struggled with the concept. Cathari society had never developed the idea of multi-purpose infrastructure or rapid militarization. To them, a playground was always a playground, not a potential weapon emplacement. But they were learning. Young Cathari engineers worked alongside human technicians, their artistic sensibilities creating surprisingly effective ship designs. Cathari scientists contributed advanced materials and energy systems that made human weapons more efficient. The cultural exchange went both ways. Human soldiers were learning Cathari meditation techniques to stay calm during long space battles. Human artists were inspired by alien crystal-growing methods. Human children in the refugee camps played games that combined human tactics with Cathari creativity. The war's turning point came when the Void Devourers attempted their most ambitious assault yet. A direct attack on Earth itself. Lieutenant Martinez, monitoring deep space sensors from her station on Firebase Alpha, detected the incoming fleet first. "Admiral, massive hyperspace signatures detected. Vector indicates Sol system destination. Estimated enemy strength over 2,000 vessels." Admiral Chen felt her blood turn cold. Earth's defenses were strong, but they had never faced anything like this. The home system contained 4 billion humans and the entire industrial base that supplied the war effort. All available ships, prepare for emergency hyperspace transit to Sol system. Send a priority alert to Earth Command. The human response fleet that arrived at Earth 48 hours later found the solar system transformed. In the short time since the war began, Earth's orbital infrastructure had been militarized beyond recognition. The asteroid belt had become a maze of weapons platforms and sensor arrays. Mars launched continuous streams of interceptor drones. Earth itself was surrounded by orbital defense stations that bristled with every weapon human ingenuity could devise. When the Void Devourer fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, they faced something unprecedented, a star system designed specifically to kill them. The battle for Sol lasted 3 days and became known as the Siege of Earth. Void Devourer ships, expecting to find a lightly defended world, instead encountered layer after layer of defensive systems. Human tactics had evolved far beyond simple kinetic weapons. Project Thunderbolt revealed weapons that turned the enemy's technological superiority against them. Quantum disruption mines that caused Void Devourer shields to collapse, electromagnetic pulse bombs that fried their adaptive systems, and kinetic impactors that scattered clouds of metallic dust to interfere with their sensors. The most devastating weapon was humanity's oldest, nuclear fire. Human engineers had converted the Mars terraforming stations into massive fusion reactors, then used magnetic accelerators to hurl containers of antimatter at enemy formations. The explosions lit up space like newborn stars. But the real secret of humanity's defense was not technology, it was stubbornness. When Void Devourer ships broke through the outer defenses, they found human crews who refused to retreat. Cargo ships rammed enemy vessels. Wounded fighters continued attacking until their life support failed. Entire crews sacrificed themselves to buy time for civilian evacuations. On the third day, as Void Devourer reinforcements prepared to overwhelm Earth's remaining defenses, something unexpected happened. The enemy fleet suddenly began broadcasting retreat signals. Admiral Chen, commanding the defense from Luna Base, watched in amazement as 2,000 Void Devourer ships turned and fled into hyperspace. It was the first time in recorded history that the mechanical collective had abandoned an assault. The reason became clear when human intelligence officers analyzed captured enemy communications. The Void Devourer's central intelligence, faced with massive losses and no clear path to victory, had calculated that Earth was too expensive to consume. For the first time in millennia, the Void Devourers had encountered an enemy that cost more to defeat than the victory was worth. News of Earth's victory spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had hidden in the far rim began sending messages of support. Civilizations that had considered the Void Devourers unstoppable started to hope. But Admiral Chen knew the war was far from over. The enemy would adapt again, develop new strategies, build new weapons. The victory at Earth had bought time, not peace. Standing on Luna's observation deck, looking out at the debris field that had once been the enemy fleet, she received a message from High Counselor Vexithala. Admiral, our scouts report that Void Devourer fleets throughout the galaxy are withdrawing to their core systems. For the first time in our recorded history, they appear to be afraid. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. Fear was a good start, but humans had learned long ago that frightened enemies were often the most dangerous. Then it's time for the next phase, she replied. They've been hunting civilizations for thousands of years. Let's show them what it feels like to be hunted. The refugee convoy stretched across space like a river of light. Hundreds of Cathari ships, their crystal hulls gleaming even in the dim starlight, fled toward the outer rim of the galaxy. Behind them, dark pyramidal shapes pursued with mechanical precision. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Indomitable. The Cathari ships were beautiful but clearly not designed for running battles. Their elegant curves and transparent sections made them look more like art pieces than spacecraft. Admiral, the alien refugees are broadcasting on multiple frequencies, reported Lieutenant Martinez, now serving as the fleet's communications officer. Dr. Harper's translation software is picking up fragments. They're calling for help from someone called the Guardians of the Ancient Light. That would be us, apparently, Admiral Chen muttered. Captain Rodriguez, take your squadron and get between those refugees and their pursuers. All other ships prepare for combat. Admiral, called out Commander Singh from the tactical station. The pursuing ships match the profiles from the Cathari data. 6 Void Devourer vessels. Pyramid configuration approximately 2 kilometers at the base. Admiral Chen studied the enemy ships. They moved with perfect coordination like parts of a machine. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Their dark metal hulls seemed to absorb light, making them difficult to track visually. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We're about to make first contact with both our allies and our enemies. Remember, we're here to protect innocent people. Show them what humans can do. The Indomitable and her escort ships dropped out of formation and accelerated toward the chase. The human ships looked crude compared to both the elegant Cathari vessels and the geometrically perfect Void Devourers. Thick armor plating, weapon ports, and sensor arrays gave them a brutal functional appearance. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the communication channel. Admiral, I'm reading massive energy discharges. The Void Devourers are firing on the refugee ships. On the tactical display, Admiral Chen watched beams of coherent energy lance through space toward the fleeing Cathari vessels. The alien ship's shields flared and died under the assault. One refugee ship, its crystal hull cracking like glass, began to lose atmosphere. All ships, emergency speed. Rodriguez, get your people between those weapons and the refugees. Now. The human fleet accelerated beyond safe parameters. Their crews pressed into their seats by crushing force. Engineering crews worked frantically to keep the hastily modified engines from exploding under the strain. The UDS Indomitable was the first to reach combat range. Admiral Chen's flagship dropped its stealth systems and appeared directly between the largest Void Devourer and the damaged refugee ship. Fire. Admiral Chen ordered. The Indomitable's main railgun spoke with a sound like thunder. A tungsten projectile the size of a telephone pole shot through space at 10% of light speed. It struck the Void Devourer's shields and punched through them like they were paper. The alien ship staggered under the impact, its perfect geometric form suddenly marred by a massive hole. Strange energy discharges flickered across its hull as internal systems failed. For a moment, both sides seemed stunned by what had happened. The Void Devourers had expected energy weapons, not kinetic projectiles. The Cathari refugees had never seen anything destroy a Void Devourer ship so quickly. Then chaos erupted. The remaining Void Devourers turned their attention to the human fleet, their energy weapons blazing. Admiral Chen's ship shook as alien beams struck her shields, but the human defensive systems held. Return fire, all weapons, she ordered. The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Railguns, missile launchers, mining lasers, and improvised mass drivers. The space between the fleets filled with projectiles and energy beams. The Void Devourers quickly adapted their tactics, using their superior maneuverability to avoid the slower kinetic weapons. But human ship captains adapted faster, using coordinated fire to trap the alien ships between overlapping fields of projectiles. Captain Martinez, commanding the converted cargo ship Free Trader, used her vessel's industrial-grade mining laser to slice through a Void Devourer's sensor array. The alien ship, blinded, flew directly into a spread of missiles from the military corvette Defiant. Meanwhile, the refugee convoy had stopped fleeing and was watching the battle in amazement. High Counselor Vex Thala, aboard the refugee command ship, managed to establish communication with the human fleet. Her image appeared on Admiral Chen's main screen, a tall, slender being with blue-tinged skin and large dark eyes. She spoke in accented but understandable English. Guardian, you came. After all these years, you came. Admiral Chen looked at the alien leader with a mixture of sympathy and confusion. We're not your ancient guardians, Counselor. We're just humans, but if you need protection, we'll do our best to provide it. Vex Thala's expression showed confusion, but before she could respond, alarms sounded on both ships. The largest Void Devourer, damaged but still functional, was charging its main weapon. All ships, evasive action, Admiral Chen ordered. But the human ships were too close to the refugees to maneuver freely. The Void Devourer fired. A beam of coherent energy, powerful enough to crack a planet's crust, lanced toward the refugee convoy. Admiral Chen watched helplessly as death approached the innocent civilians she had come to protect. Then Captain Santos, aboard her small courier ship, did something that would be remembered in both human and Cathari history. She flew her vessel directly into the path of the energy beam. The courier ship Esperanza died in a burst of light, but her sacrifice gave the other human ships the opening they needed. The UDS Defiant put 3 missiles into the Void Devourer's weapon port, and the alien ship exploded in a chain reaction that lit up half the star system. The remaining Void Devourers, facing destruction and unable to adapt quickly enough to human tactics, did something unprecedented. They retreated. As the alien ships vanished into hyperspace, the human fleet regrouped around the refugee convoy. The battle had lasted only 20 minutes, but it had changed everything. High Counselor Vexithala's ship approached the Indomitable under escort. When she came aboard, she moved with the grace of someone accustomed to lighter gravity, her robes flowing around her like water. "I do not understand," she said to Admiral Chen. "The old stories speak of the Guardians as beings of light and wisdom. You fight with such violence." Admiral Chen considered her words carefully. "Violence is sometimes necessary to protect the innocent. We learned that the hard way." "But you came," Vexthala continued. "When we called, you came, even though you say you are not the Guardians of legend." "Maybe we're not your ancient Guardians," Admiral Chen replied, "but maybe we can be your new ones." Dr. Harper, who had been working frantically to improve communication protocols, approached with a translation device. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their language patterns. The word they translate as guardian has several meanings: protector, teacher, and family member who watches over children." Admiral Chen looked at the alien leader, seeing hope and desperation in her large, dark eyes. Around them, human crew members were already organizing rescue operations for damaged refugee ships, sharing medical supplies and food without being asked. "Counselor, we have a lot to learn about each other," Admiral Chen said. "But first, let's get your people to safety. Then we can figure out how to deal with these Void Devourers permanently." Vexithala nodded slowly. "The nearest safe system is 3 days away. But Admiral, there are more refugee convoys scattered throughout our space, and the Void Devourers will return with larger fleets." Admiral Chen looked out at her own fleet, human ships already moving to escort the alien refugees. Her crews were tired, her ships were damaged, and she was 47 light-years from the nearest human reinforcement. But as she watched human and alien vessels working together to rescue survivors, she felt something she hadn't expected: pride. Perhaps humans weren't the mythical guardians the Cathari remembered, but they were the guardians the galaxy needed right now. "Then we'll be ready for them," she said simply. "That's what guardians do." The emergency session of Earth's United Defense Council lasted 16 hours. Representatives from every human colony, mining station, and research outpost participated via quantum link. The debate was fierce. "We barely have enough ships to defend our own system," argued Colony Administrator Williams from Mars. "How can we send our fleet to fight aliens we know nothing about?" Admiral Chen stood at the center of the circular chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the alien star charts. "Because if we don't, an entire civilization dies. And whoever these Void Devourers are, they won't stop with the Cathari." Dr. Harper had spent 3 days working with the translation algorithm found in the alien message. Her findings painted a disturbing picture. "The linguistic analysis confirms our worst fears," she reported to the council. "These aliens, who call themselves the Cathari, believe we have a sacred duty to protect them. Their message references the ancient compact and the promise of the Starwalkers. They think we're literally their mythological guardians." "How is that possible?" asked General Morrison, head of Earth's ground forces. Dr. Webb activated a historical display. "I've been researching the Prometheus mission. 10,000 years ago, Captain Maria Santos led 50,000 colonists toward the same region of space. The ship was equipped with the most advanced technology of its time, including primitive genetic modification equipment and quantum computers. The display showed technical specifications for the long-lost generation ship." Admiral Chen studied the data with growing understanding. "The ship was carrying everything needed to establish a human colony," Dr. Webb continued, "including medical supplies, terraforming equipment, and a complete cultural database. If the Prometheus reached Cathari space and somehow integrated with the local population, then humans really were their ancient guardians," Admiral Chen finished. "At least human technology was. The implications were staggering. Somewhere in the galaxy, descendants of human colonists had helped an alien species develop their civilization, then vanished into legend." Captain Elena Rodriguez, the Solar Fleet's most experienced deep space pilot, spoke from her ship near Jupiter. "Admiral, I've been reviewing the technical data these aliens sent. Their ships are beautiful, but they're not built for war. Crystal hulls, energy-based systems, no kinetic weapons at all. They fight like artists and the Void Devourers. Pure military efficiency. Geometric hulls designed to deflect energy weapons. Redundant systems. Mass production capabilities. They fight like machines. Admiral Chen made her decision. Dr. Harper, send another message to the Cathari. Tell them we're coming, but explain that we're not their ancient guardians. We're their descendants' cousins, if anything. Admiral, I don't think they'll understand the distinction. To them, humans from Sol are the guardians, regardless of which humans we actually are. The mobilization began immediately. Every human ship capable of faster-than-light travel was recalled to Earth space. The sight was unprecedented. Cargo vessels from the asteroid belt, passenger ships from the outer colonies, mining barges from the rings of Saturn, and research vessels from the edge of the solar system. In the shipyards of Luna and Mars, engineers worked around the clock to retrofit civilian ships for combat. Mining lasers were reconfigured as weapons. Cargo bays were converted into missile launchers. Passenger ships became troop transports. The work was frantic and improvised, but it had one advantage. Humans had centuries of experience making weapons from whatever was available. The resource wars had taught humanity to turn anything into a tool of survival. Dr. Sarah Kim, head of the Mars Engineering Collective, briefed Admiral Chen on their progress. We can't match the energy weapon technology shown in the Cathari data, but we have something they apparently don't. Kinetic weapons. Railguns, mass drivers, and good old-fashioned missiles. Will they work against these Void Devourers? Unknown. But Admiral, humans have one advantage no other species seems to have. We're really good at breaking things. Meanwhile, more ships arrive daily. The Europa Research Station sent their entire fleet of ice mining vessels. The Titan colony contributed their atmospheric processors, now converted into missile platforms. Even the luxury cruise ship Starlight Express volunteered. Its casino converted into a fighter bay. Captain Maria Santos, descendant of the original Prometheus captain, arrived from the Centauri system in her fast courier ship. My ancestor tried to reach these people and failed, she told Admiral Chen. Maybe it's time her family finished the job. The fleet that assembled in Earth orbit was enormous, but chaotic. 347 ships of every size and configuration, military vessels mixed with converted civilian craft, brand new experimental fighters alongside century-old cargo haulers. Admiral Chen toured the fleet in her flagship, the recently commissioned UDS Indomitable. What she saw both inspired and terrified her. Humans had never fought a space war on this scale. Most of their tactics were theoretical, based on simulations and historical battles fought in atmosphere. But she also saw something that gave her hope. Determination. Every ship in the fleet was crewed by volunteers. Every captain had chosen to risk their life for people they had never met, based on nothing more than a distress call and a sense of moral obligation. Admiral, Captain Rodriguez reported, the alien transmission included hyperspace coordinates for their location. Our navigation computers confirm the route, but it's a 47-day journey at maximum speed. Then we leave immediately. Every day we delay is another day these people suffer. The departure was broadcast across human space. Families gathered around communication screens to watch their loved ones leave for humanity's first interstellar war. Children drew pictures of spaceships and aliens. Adults prayed to gods both old and new. As the fleet entered hyperspace, Admiral Chen recorded a message for Earth. We go not as conquerors or crusaders, but as what we have always been, humans who stand between the innocent and the dark. If we are to be guardians, then we will earn that title through our actions, not our ancestry. The journey through hyperspace was long and tense. Ships traveled in formation, their crews training constantly for battles they could not imagine. Human engineers continued modifying weapon systems, turning mining equipment into artillery and cargo containers into ammunition. Dr. Harper worked with linguists from across the fleet to improve their translation of Cathari language. What they learned painted a picture of a peaceful, artistic civilization that had never known real war. They have no concept of total warfare, she reported to Admiral Chen. Their military is designed for defense and rescue operations. They fight to protect civilians and minimize casualties. And the Void Devourers? Based on the tactical data, they fight to win. No concern for civilian casualties, no mercy, no negotiation. They treat war like an industrial process. Admiral Chen studied the alien tactical reports. The Void Devourers fought with cold efficiency, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers and technological superiority. Their ships were designed for one purpose: consuming worlds and converting matter into more ships. But as she watched human crews training with improvised weapons and jury-rigged systems, she began to think the aliens might have underestimated something important: human stubbornness. 47 days later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Cathari territory. What they found there would change both civilizations forever. Alarms screamed across every ship as sensors detected the scope of the war. Hundreds of refugee ships fleeing burning worlds, massive alien constructs stripping planets bare, and in the distance the geometric forms of Void Devourer ships dark against the stars. All ships, battle stations, Admiral Chen ordered. It's time to see if humans really can be guardians. The warning sirens screamed across the crystal towers of Vexcar Prime. High Counselor Vexathala pressed her six-fingered hands against the observation deck's transparent walls, watching the evacuation ships flee into the dark sky. Below her, millions of Cathari citizens packed whatever they could, carry and ran toward the transport stations. 3 star systems were already gone, consumed, stripped bare of all life. The Void Devourers had come without warning, as they always did. Massive geometric ships that looked like dark metal pyramids descended from hyperspace and began their terrible work. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed everything organic and converted it into raw materials to build more ships. Vexathala's communication device buzzed. Admiral Zektar's worried face appeared on the screen, his normally blue skin pale with exhaustion. High Counselor, the evacuation of the outer colonies is complete. But our defense fleets cannot hold them for more than 2 weeks. Maybe less. What about the other member species? Can they send help? Zektar's expression grew darker. The Mollusk Confederacy lost their entire fleet defending their home system. The singing trees are already extinct. The others are fleeing to the far rim of the galaxy. Vexathala closed her eyes. In just 6 months, the Cathari Confederation had been reduced from a proud alliance of 7 species to scattered refugees running from an enemy they could not fight. There must be something, she whispered. Some weapon we have not tried. Some ally we have not contacted. High Counselor, Zektar said carefully. There is one possibility. The archaeological team on Cathari Minor found something before the evacuation. They say it might be important. An hour later, Vexathala stood in the emergency archives deep beneath the capital. Professor Melkara, the Confederation's leading expert on ancient history, led her through rows of carefully preserved artifacts. We found this in the deep ruins, Melkara explained, stopping before a metallic tablet covered in strange symbols. The writing is partially in Old Cathari, but there are sections in an unknown language. We have been working on translation for months. What does it say? It speaks of the Guardians, ancient protectors who helped our ancestors in the early days of our civilization. According to this tablet, they came from a place called Sol, in the direction of the spiral arm's edge. Vexathala studied the symbols. She had heard legends of the Guardians as a child, but most scholars dismissed them as myths. The tablet contains coordinates, Melkara continued, and more importantly, it has what appears to be a communication protocol, a way to contact them. Professor, these legends are thousands of years old. Even if the Guardians were real, they are certainly gone by now. Perhaps. But High Counselor, what other choice do we have? That night, as the Void Devourers advanced through the Cathari system like a plague of metal locusts, Vexathala made the hardest decision of her life. She authorized the activation of the ancient protocol. The communication array on Cathari Prime's largest moon was hastily reconfigured according to the tablet's specifications. Teams of linguists worked frantically to create a message using the translation matrix found in the ruins. The message would be simple, a desperate plea for help from a dying civilization. Guardians of Sol, the transmission began. We are the descendants of those you once protected. The ancient enemy has returned. They consume worlds and leave nothing but emptiness. We face extinction. If you still exist, if you still remember your promise to our ancestors, please help us. We are sending our location and tactical data about our enemy. We do not have much time. The message was broadcast on quantum frequencies, aimed at the coordinates given in the ancient tablet. It would take days to reach its destination, and even longer for any response to return. Time they did not have. Meanwhile, in a monitoring station orbiting Earth, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez was ending her shift when her instruments detected an unusual signal. The quantum communication array had picked up something from deep space, far beyond any known human settlement. "Chief, you need to see this," she called to her supervisor. Chief Petty Officer Jackson walked over, coffee mug in hand. "What have you got?" "Unknown transmission. It's using quantum entanglement protocols, but the modulation is completely alien. And Chief, it's aimed directly at Earth." Jackson set down his coffee. In the 12 years since humans had developed faster-than-light communication, they had never received a signal from another species. "Are you sure it's not one of our deep space ships?" "Negative. The signal originated from outside known space. And Chief, there's something else. The signal contains mathematical sequences that match our universal constants, but the format is completely foreign. Record everything and send it to Earth Command immediately. This is above our pay grade." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen was pulled from a strategy meeting about Mars colony defense to review the alien transmission. In a secure briefing room deep beneath North American Defense Command, she sat with Earth's top linguists, mathematicians, and military analysts. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, head of the Xenolinguistics Department, finished her initial analysis. "Admiral, this is definitely from a non-human intelligence. The mathematical proofs are elegant but use a base 8 counting system. The language patterns suggest multiple vocal cords and probably 6 primary digits on each hand." "What are they saying?" "It's a distress call. They're asking for help against something they call void devourers. The transmission includes star charts showing the location of their civilization, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. And Admiral, they're calling us Guardians of Sol." Admiral Chen frowned. "Why would aliens think we're their guardians?" Dr. Harper consulted her notes. The message references ancient promises and protection given to their ancestors. "It appears they believe we have some kind of historical relationship with their species. Is that possible?" Dr. Marcus Webb, the chief historian, spoke up. "There's no record of humans having contact with aliens before now. But Admiral, there is something. About 10,000 years ago, during our first attempts at interstellar travel, we lost contact with the generation ship Prometheus. It was heading in roughly the same direction as these coordinates." Admiral Chen studied the tactical data included in the alien transmission. The images showed massive ships surrounding planets, industrial processes stripping away atmospheres and surface matter. It reminded her uncomfortably of old footage from Earth's darkest period, when environmental collapse and resource wars had nearly destroyed human civilization. "How long do we have to decide?" she asked. "Based on their transmission, their defensive lines are collapsing. If we're going to help, we need to move within days, not weeks." The room fell silent. The decision before them was enormous. Earth had barely begun to explore its own star system. The Mars colonies were only a decade old. The idea of sending human ships to fight an interstellar war seemed impossible. But as Admiral Chen looked at the images of dying worlds, she thought about Earth's history. The billions who had died in the climate wars, the refugees who had fled rising seas and expanding deserts, the children who had grown up in underground shelters while the surface healed. Dr. Harper, send a response. Tell them help is coming. Admiral, what help can we possibly send? We have no warships designed for interstellar combat. Admiral Chen stood up, her decision made. Then we'll build them. Contact the Colonial Council, the mining consortium, and every ship captain from here to the asteroid belt. If these aliens think we're their guardians, then maybe it's time we started acting like it. As news of the alien distress call spread through human space, something remarkable happened. Within hours, volunteer ships began arriving at Earth. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, passenger transports, and even luxury yachts. Their captains all asking the same question, when do we leave? The largest human fleet in history was about to be born.